studying about the heart today. Today we are going to actually we are going to discuss about the heart rate. But before that, let me tell you some more important thing about especially the coronary heart disease. That is a disease when the heart does not get enough oxygen due to blockage of the artery. Because heart is an organ which itself needs the oxygen. For example, this is very odd. Especially, this is very odd that when we say that the heart needs oxygen, what does it actually means? It actually means that the working portion of the heart is something else, somewhere else, and the remaining part of the heart that is actually building up the heart, it needs oxygen separately. For example, we discussed four parts of the heart on the previous day, and we came to know that there are many sort of compartments in the heart, like ventricles and atria, and then we had pulmonary artery, and we had this aorta like this. But uh, the tissue that is making up the heart, the tissue that is building the heart, does not only consist of these chambers. For example, this is one chamber, this is second chamber, this is third chamber, this is fourth chamber, this is fifth part of the heart artery, this is sixth part of the heart, for example, this is seventh one. But these are just the functional part. Keep this in mind that always whenever we are talking about any organ, then all the organs have two parts in them. One part of the organ is, you may say, functional. When we talk about the lungs, what part do we mostly talk about? Yes. What do you think? Whenever we talk about the lungs, the activity of lung, the breathing inside the lungs, the gaseous exchange inside the lungs, what part do we mostly talk about?
The alveoli.
Well done, the alveoli. But the problem is that alveoli are very small part of the heart, of the lungs, and it never completely represents the structure and needs of the lungs. The lung, every lung needs the oxygen for itself. Alveoli, although the alveoli is a source of gaseous exchange, but that does not mean that alveoli is providing the oxygen to the to all over the lungs. Even the lungs themselves require some sort of arteries that bring the oxygen to themselves. So it means that the heart that is actually pumping the blood, it needs the oxygen for itself. So it is very important for the heart to get the oxygen, and the artery that you may say that divides from the aorta, and enters into the heart is known as coronary artery. Ignore the left one, it is coronary artery. One is this, okay, this is right one, this is left one, but the group of these arteries are known as coronary artery. And mostly these arteries are the ones that get blocked by the some sort of fatty deposition or fatty plug. These arteries actually are the most affected one by the higher cholesterol in the blood, because the pressure in the inside these arteries is too much, and the heart itself puts the pressure on these arteries. Not only the blood, the muscles of the heart also put the pressure on the walls of these arteries. You can say that on one side, these suppose this is a coronary artery. This coronary artery is facing the pressure of the blood from the inside, but this is not the complete pressure they are facing. They are facing the pressure of heart muscle even from the outside. Then what happens? These are the most crucial ones, because if there is a small abnormality in these arteries, These are the person who has a small problem in these arteries is going to suffer greatly, because these are I have mentioned that from how many directions these are facing the pressure from the outside and from the inside. So due to both of these pressures, these arteries are very much vulnerable, and this type of pressure makes it more, you may say, vulnerable to build a plug of the fats inside it. The plug of the fats actually starts from a very from a very small from a very small, you may say, mass, from a very small mass. But the quality of fat is the fats bond to each other. So they bond to each other and they start creating that smaller mass. They start converting the smaller mass into bigger one, and ultimately what happens that the bigger mass becomes a very huge problem for us. It becomes a clot. It becomes a problem for us. Another thing is, I haven't discussed about the consequences. I haven't discussed about the consequences, but let me first tell you that what happens actually in the coronary artery. Then I will tell you about the consequences. First, second thing is very important, that due to the pressure from the both sides, from the inside and from the outside, there is a huge chance of clotting in here. For example, if someone is a smoker, a very frequent smoker, this is very important. The blood of the smoker gets thickened, too much thick than the normal person, than the person who is non-smoker. The blood of the smoker becomes thicker, and this viscosity causes the blood to flow at a slower speed than the normal person. What happens if the blood is trapped somewhere due to pressure or due to low, you may say, due to reduced flow? If the blood stops somewhere, it would immediately clot. It would immediately clot, because wherever the blood stops, the red blood cells start joining to each other. You know that when we are, have you ever heard about one thing? Let me tell you, and after that, I will be coming back to the topic. Have you ever heard about the ESR? You should have, I think.
I've heard this somewhere.
ESR is the erythrocyte sedimentation rate. The scientific name of the red blood cells is erythrocyte. Erythro means red. I think we have studied this, and cyte means cell. Erythrocyte. Sedimentation, S for sedimentation, R for rate. If there is some sort of infection in our body, the erythrocyte from our body, they plug to each other. They clot with each other. They join with each other, and they start creating a mess. So if the erythrocytes have this tendency to pluck with each other, to join each other, they can create a clot inside the this artery, inside these coronary arteries. And if the blood is affected, the flow of blood is affected, then you may say the clotting rate is higher. And sometimes some persons do not even have the fat plug inside their heart. They have the blood clot inside their coronary artery. And this coronary artery is crucial, because whatever is the type of blockage, fat plug or blood clot, whatever is the type of blockage, the blood would not be able to pass through these arteries. Now I am coming to the consequences. The blood will not be able to pass through these arteries. Now, what what are the blood? Oh, sorry, I have forgotten the question. What was I going to ask? Yes. What is so much important that the blood is bringing towards the heart?
Deoxygenated blood.
Well done. Oxygen. Now you have or the person who is clot, who is suffer from the fat plug or blood clot, it has started building a barrier between the oxygenated blood, the speed, the quickness of oxygenated blood, and the heart. What would happen? The heart cells start to die. First of all, it does not happen immediately. Sometime before the death of the heart cell, we feel that we are facing some sort of pain here in the heart, or some sort of we are we are facing a problem of you may say, what do we say? Mm, difficult breathing, sudden increase in heart rate, difficult breathing. We are having very we are suddenly we are sitting somewhere and suddenly we start taking very deep breaths. These are some sort of the symptoms, and we become suspicious that there is something wrong with the heart. There's something wrong, that if we are feeling difficult, feeling it difficult to breathe in, or our heart rate has suddenly elevated, then there must be some problem. So many people feel this. Many people. You may say that out of 100%, 95% people feel this, that there is something wrong going on inside the heart. But many people, due to their, you may say, they do not want to face any sort of doubt. They immediately start to think it over. They want to, they want this piece of thinking to go away, so they immediately remove this doubt from their minds. But this costs a lot. If we if we start, you may say, ignoring this sort of difficulty, if we are having difficulty in breathing, or our heart rate has become suddenly increased, this is not this is not right. So what happens? The problem is, our heart is not getting enough oxygen, and whenever the heart is not feeling the proper quantity of oxygen, what happens? It starts pumping with strength, very high strength. Why? Because heart is actually accustomed to feel the amount of carbon dioxide and oxygen in the blood, and it immediately feels the reduction in oxygen and elevation in carbon dioxide. Why? Let me tell you one thing. uh, in the heart, there is glucose C6H12O6, that is broken into carbon dioxide and water and energy. And this requires actually the oxygen. This breakdown of glucose requires the oxygen. So, and you can easily see that this carbon dioxide is going to be removed into the blood. So, if we are breaking this glucose at a higher rate, then the concentration of carbon dioxide would be elevated in the blood, isn't it? The concentration of carbon dioxide would be elevated because we are going to beat the heart at more strength, at harder strength. And we are going to need more oxygen to increase the rate of breakdown of glucose, so that we can get more and more energy. But suppose what happens, we are not getting enough oxygen, but we are trying to, you may say, we are trying to increase the rate of breakdown of glucose at all cost. What happens? The rate of oxygen falls down drastically, and the carbon dioxide level increases at a very dangerous rate. So the heart feels, the heart has the sensors that can feel the elevation in the amount of carbon dioxide and the reduction in the amount of oxygen. Just because of that, one some sort of plug or some sort of clot in the coronary artery, and the heart starts to beat with extra force, and that extra force would even elevate the amount of carbon dioxide in the blood more. Why? Because that extra force is needing more and more oxygen, and that extra force would also releasing more and more carbon dioxide in the blood. So what is actually the problem is a problem that the person, the heart of the person is so much disturbed now that it has mistakenly it has increased the level of carbon dioxide, and the it has accidentally removed the or you may say reduced the level of oxygen in the blood due to some sort of misunderstanding. Would you excuse me for 1 minute, please?
Sure.
Okay, sorry. I thought someone was calling me. Okay. So, are you understanding all of this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now the important thing is, uh, let's watch a diagram from the book. Yes. Now, yes, look at this one. Look at this one. Sensors detecting the level of carbon dioxide in the blood. These sensors are present in the aorta actually. These are present in the aorta. So whenever the heart feels something like this, it would immediately start increasing the heart rates, and we immediately would be able to sense that something is wrong here. So we start taking actions about it. But the coronary artery is the importance of coronary artery is very, very much vital, because we are actually the heart is going to get the oxygen for itself. I was going to tell you that every organ has two parts. One is functional part and the other one is the structural part. So what we are talking about now is the structural part, that the heart has the functional part as atria and ventricle, but the heart needs the oxygen for the structural part. So that structural part is actually vital. And suppose what happens that the structural part does not get oxygen. Can do you have any guesses what would happen?
Its cells would start to die.
Very good. You have almost completed my point. Cells would start dying, and you can feel that there is a problem that is known as heart failure, or some sort of, the name of this disease is myocardial infarction. Myocardial infarction. This is myocardial infarction, heart failure. So the weaker heart, the weaker the heart, this means this more cells of the heart have been died. Why? Because of the lack of oxygen that should be coming from the coronary artery. So for this purpose, if someone feels it a bit earlier, then he or she would be cured by implanting a stent inside the coronary artery. But if there is something wrong with the you may say with the heart is so much damaged. In any case, the heart is so much damaged that it the stunt is not enough. The stent is not enough. Then that person is the doctor asks that person to take a long bed rest, for example, 3 months almost, and he is forbidden to perform any sort of hectic activity. This is the reason. So this is very important. This artery is very important, and also there are some other things that make the heart to uh, beat at a bit higher rate. For example, this is the part of the brain that is known as medulla. Medulla. Let me tell you something about the parts of the brain. There are three parts of the brain. If we start from the spinal cord, then the part that comes after the spinal cord. We are talking about spinal cord going towards the head, going towards the head. So the first part, after the ending of the spinal cord, the first part is known as hindbrain. The first part is known as hindbrain, and then there is another part that comes after it. It is midbrain, and the largest part of the human brain is the forebrain. What we are talking about right now is the hindbrain. This part has three subparts, but I am going to tell you about only one of all those three. That is medulla. Medulla is actually controlling our involuntary action. I suppose you know about the involuntary.
No.
Okay, involuntary actions are those which are not in our control. For example, breathing rate, heart rate, even blood pressure, some sort of other sleep phenomena, even the balance of the body. If we are walking, then the posture of our body is controlled in this under the strict observation of the medulla part. So have a look at this point, that this part is actually commanding the heart to increase at a higher rate if it feels even more carbon dioxide, because uh, let's have a look at this whole phenomena. These are the carbon dioxide sensors in the blood, in the heart. These sensors would sense the level of carbon dioxide. For example, it is elevated levels of the carbon dioxide. So these sensors would sense the level of carbon dioxide. These would immediately transfer the signal towards the medulla. The medulla would immediately process the information and would send this information back to the heart, to a very important part of the heart, that is pacemaker. Pace means speed. So if it gives the signal to the pacemaker to increase the heartbeat, the heart would immediately start beating at a higher rate. And even the volume, for example, at rest, your heart beats, and the volume that is coming out of the heart is 100 ml. But if you are angry, or if we are in some sort of emergency, our heart start pumping even more volume. For example, it would start pumping 200 milliliter of the volume. This volume is known as stroke volume. Stroke volume means the volume of the blood coming out of the heart at one beat. Stroke volume. So at one beat, if a heart is pushing 100 ml of the blood, in case of angriness or in sort of some sort of emergency, the heart would start pumping 200 ml only upon the command of this medulla. So these are some sort of phenomena here that control the heart, and that are very sensitive for the heart, especially when we talked about this coronary artery, and this artery faces more problem than any other arteries in our body. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Number of factors. Okay, yes, let's have a look that how we get the heart disease. For example, there is a very important point mentioned, very important point, and that is heredity. Sometimes heredity counts very much. And then after that, this is high blood pressure. It weakens the heart, more strain on the heart, right? And then diet, very important. Fat, saturated fat diet, smoking, stress, lack of exercise. Stress is very important. Smoking also, and then lack of exercise. This is very important because in these days we have a special lifestyle that is known as sedentary lifestyle. Sedentary means we are limited to bed, or you may say that we do not even bother to run a bit or walk a bit in our daily life. We just go to the school, or we just go to work, and we only work there and then come back to home, and then we assume that we have burnt enough calories. No, we should bother about burning the calories, so that the enough calories are burnt in our body, and the calories are not harmful for the heart, because it is the calories that bring us to the diabetes. It is a complete sort of chemistry here involved here. And when I will teach you about the hormones, I will definitely discuss the diabetes and how the calories affect the diabetes. Okay, I will tell you this later. Okay, I suppose that we have completed this chapter. Let me have a look at our curriculum, so that we may not have left something here. Coordination, response, creation, transport. Yes. Okay. How heart rate changes, how manufacturing increase are restored developing coronary heart disease, arteries vein capillaries, general structure of the circulatory system, including blood vessels to form heart, to and from the heart, lungs, liver, and kidneys. Okay, ये तो discuss कर लेते हैं. Okay, fine. Now, general structure of the circulatory system. Actually, they are asking us to discuss. So let me draw something here. Then I will be discussing it. Once again, you do not need to know how to draw it, or you do not need to practice it. Actually, the diagrams are important when you are, although if you practice the diagram, it would help you a lot. Why? Because if you want to recognize or identify some part of the heart or some part of the body that has been asked in the 4BIO 0 or 1, paper 1B or 2B, whatever is the paper. So you should be able to identify that particular part. So it is important in that way, because if we practice the diagram, it would help us a lot. Help us a lot. So it would be good. Okay, they are supposing that we are going to discuss about the flow of blood from the heart to and from some organs. For example, they are going to, we are going to and from the heart and lungs. We have discussed this, right? Liver and kidneys. I'm going to discuss that how the blood goes towards the liver and then comes back from the liver and kidney. First of all, whenever the aorta that is going downward in the body, it divides into several arteries. Let me redraw this. It divides into several arteries, and after reaching the legs, it this aorta completely divides into two legs. I can mention the names of these arteries as well, but let's suppose that these arteries are going towards the legs. Now, we know that along with sorry, not along with, near the spinal cord, there are two organs. There is a one type of organ present in the pairs, and that organ is known as the kidney. And the kidney receives much blood from the heart than any of the organs. So the arteries that enter into the kidney are known as renal arteries. These are actually the renal arteries. And these arteries deliver the blood to the kidney, and the blood comes out of the kidney with the help of a vessel. You know very well that this vessel would be called as the what? The renal vein, because this is taking the blood from the kidney and bringing it towards the heart. So this would be called as the renal vein. So why have I left a small part of this vein On one side, I would be telling you it later. One of the very important organ of our body is the liver. Suppose that the liver is present here, and this liver is taking the blood from this artery that is mentioned here as the hepatic artery. This is taking the blood here. This is hepatic artery. Hepatic artery. So the blood would be moving around inside the liver, and after some time, it would be exiting the heart. But not yet. Let me tell you something else about the liver. Actually, the liver takes the blood from the lower body, from the lower body, including the intestines. Intestines. For example, the intestine is situated here, and the blood is coming back towards the heart. It would first enter into the liver, and some other veins would be coming from the lower body, and these veins would first enter into the liver, and the liver, due to because these veins would have the absorbed food that we have eaten, and all the broken part of the food are now present inside this vein. Now this vein would first give this all this food to the liver. So where all the veins combine and enter into the liver, this vein is known as hepatic portal vein, because all the veins from the below lower part of the body, including the intestine that is containing the absorbed food, all the veins would enter into the body. Not into the body. All the veins would first enter into the liver. The liver would assess them. Is there anything harmful here, or is there anything useful here? How to use the amino acids, how to use the glucose, how to use the fats, all things would be assessed here. And everything after everything has been given to the liver, the blood goes back to the main vein, and now this vein would be called as the hepatic vein. Hepatic portal vein and hepatic vein, these both are different things. Now, all of these veins would be flushing inside the vena cava, the biggest vein. But the most important thing is that this liver would be before the heart, it would be receiving the blood from the lower body, and it would literally assess that food, that how what to do with the food, what to do with the all the blood, and what to do with the factors, what to do with the absorbed material that has been absorbed from the intestine. And when the blood gives away everything to the blood, almost when the blood gives almost everything to the liver, it keeps the flow. It does not stop here. It keeps the flow, and it would enter into the vena cava by the help of the hepatic vein. So hepatic portal vein is only for the lower organs, that all the organs flush their blood into this vein, and then this vein is directed towards the heart. So this is how the flow of the blood is carried out towards and away from the kidney and liver. So now we have finished this. What are we supposed to do next? Before the transport, we had this gaseous exchange and respiration and nutrition. You want to study nutrition, not the nutrition, right? You did tell me. Do you remember what topics did you tell me you want to study from the animal physiology?
Yes. I told you breathing and gas exchange, food and digestion, blood and circulation, coordination, chemical coordination, homeostasis and excretion.
All right. Okay. This is done. Okay. Coordination, chemical coordination, and homeostasis and excretion. Okay, let's start the coordination. Let me read about the contents of coordination and then we will be this. All right. Flowering plants. No. Okay, humans. You want to study the plants in coordination?
Yes.
Okay, okay, right. No problem. Communication, understand the central nervous system of the brain, spinal cord, stimulation receptors, understand the role of neurotransmitters, synapses, structure of the simple reflex arc, function of the eye as a receptor. Oh, wow. Function of the eye, focusing on near and distant objects, skin, temperature regulation.
Also taking coordination in humans as well.
Yes, yes, yes. Coordination in humans as well. Role of the skin in temperature regulation, whether it's sweating, whether it's sources, roles, and effects of the following hormones: adrenaline, insulin, testosterone, progesterone, estrogen. Okay, fine. So we are going to discuss about the sense, sense organs, role of neurotransmitter. They didn't mention the neuron, but they mentioned the neurotransmitters. And how can we skip the neurons? Okay, fine, no problem. Okay, coordination. All right. The coordination is the literal meaning of coordination, or you may say the supposed definition is, of the coordination is cooperation between different parts, not of the body, but of every organization. You know very well that if we talk about the coordination, it is called cooperation between the different parts of some sort of setup. For example, we are cooperating, we cooperated with the help of certain person, and then we started the classes, and we are now coordinating with the help of some sort of online application, and we are studying our syllabus. In any sort of educational institute, a command comes from the head office, and then it trickles down to the teachers and then to the students, and then it starts from the head office and then to some sub office and then to some principal, then to some vice principal, then to coordinators and to teachers and then to students, etc. It's like this is known as coordination. This is the involvement of the steps or involvement of the ranks between the command and execution of the command. So it means there that without this cooperation, without this coordination, nothing can happen, nothing can occur. So there is coordination between the body parts, between the body parts. For example, let me tell you some examples. We can easily assess that what is actually a coordination. Okay, for example, brain. Brain is a very important part. We control our muscles with the brain. So if I'm writing this, I'd never look down where to where to write with the pen or where not to write with the pen. I just feel something. For example, I have this board with me. I have this board with me. I put it on my lap and I just look at the screen, look at the diagrams, look at the board, and what I do, what I just keep my hands here, right? So I can feel things, even I can see things from the, you can you know that if we focus on something, it doesn't mean we are unable to see some other things that is out of our vision. So I can see this board if while looking at the screen, but suppose that I am focused on the on the screen, how can how I'm starting with this rate, with this speed? I just know that I have this board on my lap and this pen. I'm supposed to grab this pen with like this, like this. So My fingers, if my fingers are around this pen like this is a coordination. This is the command of my brain that is making my finger to grab this pen in such a way that I can balance and handle and write through this pen. So I have this pen right here. I have my hand right here. So suddenly I start, my brain tells me that you are supposed to write or you are supposed to draw something here. So I take my arm from here to here. This is also coordination. The balance and the speed and the aim of the arm is here. So I have put my hand here. Now I have my pen on this board, and now I can moving the mouse. Now suppose there are two types of coordination happening here. One, the coordination between me, my hand muscles, and the fingers. The other coordination is between computer and this board. Although this is does not related to my brain, but this actually, this pen is following the commands of my brain, and ultimately the computer is actually following the command of my brain, because I'm moving this the pen in this form. For example, this is my mouse placed here. I think that I suddenly think that this is very slow, so I immediately grab this mouse and start moving the mouse pointer like this is also coordination. So there are hundreds of examples of coordination you can even now feel while only sitting on the in front of your laptop. For example, you are listening to me. This is coordination. You are acting according to it. You are thinking according to my sentence. This is coordination. For example, I told you that you can feel the examples even right now by looking at the laptop, by listening to me, which means I have asked your brain to think with the help of these ears. So it means there is some sort of coordination. You drink the tea, you take your hands to the cup, and then you when you hold the cup, you insert your finger into the handle of the cup and turn this finger in this direction. This is coordination. And then you lift it up. This is coordination. You bring it to your towards your mouth, and then you feel the temperature. You do not immediately swallow you may say a large amount. You first feel the temperature. If it is okay, then you start sipping it. This is coordination. So everything is coordinated. You can bring hundreds of examples from your body. For example, your blood is dehydrated. Your brain commands you to go and drink the water. First, it gives you command to go and drink the water. Then it tells you that stand from the chair, put your hands here, stand up from the chair, put the weight on your feet, take one step, second step, third step, move to the door, open the door, go to the kitchen. There is cooler. The water cooler is there. Go towards the water cooler. Take a glass. Go to the cooler. Press the button. The water would drop into the glass, and then you focus on the glass, or you hear the glass. Water is filling the glass, and then you take it away. Remove your hand from the. This is coordination. A single step that is out of coordination would not let you work properly. If a person who is unable to maintain the balance, he is not under the phenomena of coordination. He will lose it. He will completely lose it. So he would not be able to perform the tasks smoothly and quickly like the other persons do. So this is a very important phenomena between the organs and the coordinator. So for coordination, there is some sort of, you may say, some sort of motivation for the coordination. For example, if I am moving my hand over the pen and the pen is writing, so there is some sort of motivating element, and that is that I am going to write here, you are going to note it, and these would be your notes, and these would be imprinted in your brain. So there is some sort of aim, there is some sort of you may say task. So coordination works on motivating task. But let me convert it in the language of the coordination, topic of the coordination. Anything that urges you to work, that urges you to work, or any change in the outside or inside environment, change in the outside or inside environment, that is actually, in single word, that is actually regarded as stimulus. That particular change that urges you to work, to show response, to show response, not work, to show response. It doesn't, every time response doesn't mean to work. Sometime you take away your eyes from something. You see something that is, for example, you are going to the car and something, an intense light is fallen on your lenses. You take away your eyes. So it doesn't mean you have done something work. You have just tilted your head along the side. So it is also the stimulus. Stimulus is anything that urges you to show response. But to regard something, to name something as stimulus, you should have something. What is, let me raise a question. What is stimulus and what is not? Can you answer this?
As you said right now, that stimulus is something that urges us to work or show response.
Hmm. Okay, but let me tell you one step ahead. Stimulus is only stimulus when we can sense it, when we can feel it, when we can receive it. For example, why do we say that dogs have more, you may say, dogs can smell more quality of the, more variety of the smells than the humans? Because there are some smells that are not stimuli for the human, that are not stimulus for the human. Why? The humans do not have the receptors for that particular stimulus. The second step that must be there, second thing that must be there is the receptor. If light is coming to my eyes and I do not even have the receptors to receive that light, I would not be able to perceive it. For example, ultraviolet light, we cannot see it, but it is around here, around us. Infrared light, we cannot see it, but it is around us. Why? We cannot see. Why we cannot see? Because we do not have the proper receptors. So it is the quality of the receptor that makes us able to sense a stimulus or ignore something. We do not even know. We do not even know that bacteria is present on, hundreds and thousands and trillions of the bacteria are present on our skin, but we do not sense them. Why? Because we do not have that sensitive receptors on our skin. This is very important. We must have the receptors. In the eyes, we have limited ability to watch other than all organisms. For example, owl, lions, they can see in the dark. Eagle, hawk, falcon, they all can see in the dark. We cannot. So that we do not have the particular receptors. Similarly, we do not even able to smell some very important fragrances, you may say, because we do not have the ability. We do not have the receptors. So receptor is the major thing. Then after the receptor, it is coordinator. Coordinator is the one that actually process the information, process the information that is arising from the receptor. And what would it be? What is the coordinator? What do you suppose?
The nerves.
No, the nerves are the pathway. The one that processes the information is the brain. And then after that, it would tell some organs to show the response. Those organs which are going to show the response are called as effectors, for example, muscles. We walk, we run, we punch, we kick, we move away. These all are under the control of the muscles. Then also there are some glands which can show the response. So the result of the effector is the response. The effectors are here to show the response. So we are actually supposed to show the response of the stimulus. But in the pathway, there are three things: receptors, coordinator, and effector. If we have the proper receptors, we can process the information and we can show the effect accordingly with the help of our muscles. Clear?
Yes.
Okay. So we have studied the basics of coordination and some things I would be telling you tomorrow about the coordination because some things are there in the introduction yet.